Probably belongs to some instructor. We should take it. Achilles. Achilles. And then Achilles. His mother just didn't want him to die. So after many centuries of looking around to see if there is any way she can make his or her daughter, his son, her daughter's son is her son immortal, eventually finds this fountain of youth, picks him up, puts him into this water. But the only, she had to hold on to his ankle, you know, and that was the only place that was weak about him, his ankle. And that's how they captured him, that's how he died. But it's just getting old and dying, you know, like it's your birthday, you don't invite anyone, despite all the various ways you've tried to look young and feel young and stay young. Just look yourself in the mirror and hello. Well, good luck.
Thanks.
William Matthew, I can't even see you. Yes, there you are. So is there anything you guys want to talk about before we go home? Hello? Leah?
Why didn't Job just kill himself? It wasn't that bad.
Have you read the book of Job?
No.
I suppose you could call it a sort of a prayer where he pleads with God, or maybe just says to him, why didn't the earth open up and swallow me? Why didn't my mother's knee give? Why didn't the milk in her breast turn to poison? I just don't want to live. And it's an interesting phenomenon. There are these moments that you just don't think you're ever going to recover. That life has become this frozen sea of ice. It's always going to remain this way. Pain is never going to go away. And you actually do pray for death. Can I tell you a poem? رو سر به نه ببالین تنها مرا رها کن. Ali, please. ترک من خراب شبگرد مبتلا کن. از من گریز تا تو هم در بلا نیفتی. بگزین ره سلامت ترک ره بلا کن. We were sitting in my teacher's house and he was reciting this poem. And then there were three of us for 10 years or so. And so he asks me, and he asks Mehrdad, and he asks Hussein, what do you think he means by that? And you know, we were at our very primitive, immature, still are too, in many ways. So, well, you know, it's like psychological death and all that stuff. He says, no. There comes a point where you realize life is like cancer. You just don't feel like it. You actually understand what life is all about. Hello. And then you say there is no remedy from it. And so you just say the only way that this pain will ever go away is when you're dead. This poem, just in case you're interested, was given to us by Maulana Jalaluddin Rumi Balkhi. Rumi. But just in case that sounds a little foreign, I'll give you The Desire for Death by someone that you may have heard. His name is Jesus. And I'm going to borrow the story that's given to us through the Gospel of Judas. If you look at the New Testament, which consists of 27 books, but we're only interested really in the four Gospels. And when you look at the Gospels, the figure of Judas gets darker and darker and darker, from someone who's just no good to someone who's just pure evil, and ultimately just Satan himself. In one book, he hangs himself. In another book, he walks into this land, and his belly is opened and he just dies. It's called the field of blood. So even in the New Testament version, you have no idea which version of Judas you should really believe. But the Catholic Church for the longest time came to realize that human beings don't like to read, human beings don't like to think. It's just too much trouble. And there are just too many conflicting stories about the character Jesus. So they did us a great favor. They got rid of approximately maybe 50 Gospels. And they said, let's choose the ones that are the most basic, the most simple, and the easiest to understand. So they choose Matthew, Mark, and Luke. It took them a while to figure out whether or not John would be okay. Eventually they said John is fine. Matthew, Mark, and Luke are called synoptic Gospels because they are very, very similar in tone. You ask Jesus a question, he tells a story. The Gospel of John is very, very, very different. Not a single story in the Gospel of John. It's the only Gospel where he says, I am life, I am bread, before Abraham, me. You want to get to God through me. I mean, this is a self-actualized man in the Gospel of John. In all the other books, he goes through some doubt, some skepticism about who he is, what he is, but not in the Gospel of John. If I was to... Who's that? Hello. If I was to tell you the evolution of wisdom, how wisdom basically just matures in time, it would be the following. In the... hello. So for those of you in this class who have any wisdom about you, and all of us in this class do have some wisdom, in other words, you just understand some things, you know some things. Maybe you have fallen in love. I know Matthew/William doesn't like me talking about love all the time, and I don't really disagree with him. It really sucks. It just smells bad. But you know what it does to you. You know what it does to your system. And then your friends come to you and say, so what is wrong with you? And you try to explain. What are you guys doing here? Aren't you in high school?
What?
High school, right? Or you graduated?
Graduated.
Oh yeah? What are you guys doing now?
Here. Taking classes here.
Laney? Why? Oh, it's too early for jokes. It's good to see you. Where was I? One of the things you understand when you are feeling something and knowing something is other people will inquire. What's wrong with you? Tell me exactly what you mean. And then you realize they're always misunderstanding you. I mean, that's the nature of when you know something, it's always going to be misunderstood. Always. And that's the first thing you need to understand about the Gospel of Mark. It's not about Jesus Christ. It's just about the nature of wisdom, nature of knowing. when you share it, it's going to be misunderstood. So for those of you in this class who have ever experienced anything, and you've come to understand that which have you experienced, and when you understand it, you're like pregnant. And when you're pregnant, it's time for delivery. When your child, this understanding comes out and reaches the ears of men or women, they're always going to say, well, this is what you mean, no? And you say, no, that's not what I mean. What is wrong with you? Goosh khar digar furusho goosh khar. You are listening with the ears of your head. And your head has been around for like 15, 20, 30 years. You have your biases, your prejudices, your do's and don'ts, your ridiculous narratives you don't even understand. You're just fucked up completely. I'm not looking for you to listen with the ears of your head. It's contaminated by society. Ears of your soul. Goosh khar digar furusho goosh khar. So, for those of you who feel misunderstood, betrayed by your friends, the closest people to you, when you tell them something, do not be surprised. This was told to us some 2,000 years ago. Toughen up. You don't need therapy. That's the first thing. And you're going to encounter people like your best friends who will tell you, Job, you know, ABCD is happening to you because of EFGH. They always want to justify why things are happening to you. You know, the truth is you don't really know why things happen the way they do. Right, Stephanie? It's a mystery. But you have all these friends. Oh, you know, maybe you fell in love and then out of love for a reason. Maybe you got sick for a reason. Maybe your dad died for a reason. So I don't give a shit about all those reasons, man. I'm feeling and I can't know what to do with all these emotions inside me. So your best friends becomes your worst enemies. Then, of course, you have wisdom in the Gospel of Matthew. Right, EJ? Who are you going to tell your secrets to, Leah? Strangers? No. You're going to tell them to the people closest to you. And that is the message in the Gospel of Matthew. It's usually considered to be the Jewish gospel. You know, who you are to your own people, what you're going through to your mom, to your dad, to your brother, to your sister. But they will disappoint you too. For those in this class who are sad, depressed, feeling isolated, alienated, you'll find lots of people giving you bumper stickers. How to be, how not to be, what to do to get out of this dump. It's not going to happen. It's not going to help. And then you have the Gospel of Luke. So, you know, my best friends don't get me. My parents don't get me. You know what I should do? Maybe I should just go talk to some stranger who doesn't know anything about me. And the Gospel of Luke is the wisdom teaching that you give to anyone who shows any interest, because your own community has betrayed you. And you tell them these things through stories. Novel, hello. How are you, man? Man, that voice. And then you get the Gospel of John, a remarkable book. He doesn't tell you stories. You know why? Language, words. What is it that words do, Leah? They are misunderstood. Imagine I come to class and I say, fuck! Well, look at Sarah, a devout Christian, close to being a nun. Profanities, well, that's not nice. In a classroom, higher education. You, on the other hand, just a few minutes ago, you got pulled over by the cops. That's exactly what you said. Not because you're a Christian. Oh shit, white cops, black person, brown person, maybe it's ice, who the hell knows. You walk, the sun is setting, it's beautiful, it's awesome. And all of a sudden you realize one single word can have 50 different definitions, all having different contexts. You know what Jesus does in the Gospel of John? He's a magician. Have you seen that movie, The Greatest Showman, with Hugh Jackman and Hugh Humphreys? The James Bond girl? Oh, no, Mission Impossible girl. What's her name? Angelina Jolie. In the Gospel of John, he comes to realize, you know what? It's no good talking to people. They're useless. But show them tricks. Come to class and produce 50 boxes of donuts. Just go like this. Say, are you guys hungry? Yes. All of a sudden you have donuts. Come eat. And this class will be filled with people. Not because they understand, but because magic tricks. And that's the Gospel of John. In the Gospel of Judas, you have something profoundly fascinating. You wake up, you gotta eat. Then you gotta get in the car. Hopefully you won't get into an accident. Drive to class. Because you're fearful of your future. Take some crummy classes, be around some crummy instructors, do busy work. Then you gotta pay ends, rent. You gotta work, crummy job. Jordan just got a job. Does he like it? No. Is it an extension of his soul? Definitely not. He's got to work though. He's got to make money. Frustration, irritation, boredom, fear. Then you get to be 25. Erotic desires, like an army, begin to attack you. Then you get to be 30. Your desire for security, stable job, stable paycheck, a house that you want to buy. Then you turn 45 or 35. You want to get married. You want to have children. Then you worry about them. Then you get old. Then you got to live to the standards of society, other people, instructors. It's just endless. Endless fields of trouble at every corner. And then out of desperation, you have some stupid, childish belief in God. You go to church every Saturday, every Sunday. You become a Jew or a Christian. You become an atheist. Acts of desperation. And then you read books. You don't really understand it. Even if you did, you wouldn't be able to do much about that. And in the Gospel of Judas, you get this wise man coming to realize, you know what? It's just hopeless. Having a physical body is hopeless. Living in society is hopeless. Being around other people is hopeless. Everything is just hopeless. Wisdom can't be received. Wisdom can't be communicated. Nothing can be learned with the way that we are. So he turns to his best friend, his most faithful, mature disciple, Judas. Give me to the Romans. Let them kill me. Once I'm dead, my soul will go back to God. Hello? No, please. Oh, good morning. How are you doing? See, this poor creature. She wants to stay home, rest. Another poor creature. Is that? Let's move on. Matthew. Stephanie. Jordan. EJ. Oh, wait, did I just ask all men? Let me ask some. You're a woman, that's right. My apologies. Ali, did I ask you? I mean, these days it's hard to tell who is what and what is who and where is this and what is that. EJ.
If humans don't have some kind of divine spark within their intelligence, what exactly is it that allows us to conceptualize things and critically think and have philosophical thoughts that other creatures lack the ability to?
I'm sorry, you gotta do this again. There was a movie many, many years ago with Denzel Washington and Tom Hanks, Philadelphia. It was at the zenith of the AIDS epidemic. And so in the courtroom, Tom Hanks would say, he was a lawyer, he would say, explain things to me as if I was a 2-year-old. So just in case some of in this class sometimes wonder why I use the word sex quite often, or drinking or smoking, because this is what we do as, young people. Those who get lucky. The unlucky ones, we just talk about other things, like what it means to be Devante. There you go, good job. You're a monk. Please.
Let me think about it. Like reading and writing, for example, that's something that no other creatures on Earth do, read and write. As far as I know, no other creatures can discuss their position in the universe as far as divine order of things. So what makes us different? Why can't we?
There was a guy whose name was T.S. Eliot. An orange is an orange. A cat is a cat. A dog is a dog. A cat never looks at himself and says, I like to be an orange. Human beings are not like that, and I don't know why. It's both a blessing and a curse. I mean, we have, for such tiny little animals that we are, we have such huge brains, and I don't know if there is a God, but maybe through evolution, biological evolution, we came to realize that life, for us, the sort of entities that we are, is enormously complex. We have to figure things out, and because at every corner there lies a trouble, we have no choice but to be forced into thinking. Not so much thinking about who I am, but thinking, how do I survive this environment? Maybe Plato was right. Maybe there is a difference between hummingbirds and us. There's a reason why hummingbirds have to just eat 24/7. Because that's the only thing they like to do. They just like to eat food. Human beings, on the other hand, they're designed for a different purpose. You eat, you're full, you're not going to think about food for the next 5 hours. And then in those periods where you don't think about food, what do you think about? Who am I? What am I? And maybe God made us this way. So we could be the sort of animals that we are. We could create people like Malcolm X and Mahatma Gandhi. There are a variety of different ways of looking at this stuff, Leslie?
When we were born, you know how birds fly?
No. No purpose. No purpose. Can I add a few footnotes? Women are very, very, very lucky. Men, unfortunately, are not as lucky. I was just going to tell you. I mean, look at your mom. Look at my mom. At the age of 16 or 15, she got married to my dad.
How old is it?
92. You need some age difference. Men mature slower. Right now, my father is like 150. My dad was 27, since you're nosy. Madison, what happened to you?
What happened to me?
It's okay.
I don't agree with you a lot of times.
It's, yeah, you have issues. So,
I can argue the exact same thing.
no, you can't.
Yes, I can.
No, you
talk about
can't.
beating your kids.
It's stealing.
Exactly.
Yeah, metaphorically.
Oh, okay.
Now, Leslie, look. Women are like an oven. Oven. We turn them on, and you have an egg that's active. A man has a sperm that's inactive, actually quite passive. An egg is very selective. For the longest time, I mean, this was like male-dominated philosophy in regards to like how women should be and all that stuff, that the egg simply sits there and the sperm like moves towards it. That's not the case. They came to realize that the sperm actually has zero power. It just sits there, as most men do, like on the sofa watching TV. And all of a sudden they hear screaming, "John, dishes!" Okay, I'll be right there. And so the egg selects the sperm and says, "Come to me." And then they unite. Of course, you won't know just yet you're pregnant. A couple of days pass by and then you begin to throw up. Bleh. And then, of course, you know, the way Jesus gave his blood to save humanity, you start giving, or maybe not giving your blood. You keep your blood to yourself. Okay? You get pregnant. And then you become a mother. And then for the rest of your life, you worry about your children. That's how it used to be. Not anymore, of course. Now women are conflicted in different ways. The point I'm trying to make, that I think Plato was right many, many years ago, that men will always have false children. Why false? What is it that men do? Men create ideas. Look at all the philosophies around. All the prophets in the Old Testament and the New Testament, all men. With some exceptions, you get a few women. You know, something about them is just not right. But for the most part, it's men who don't like the world, don't like people, don't like society, wander off into the desert, come back with a philosophy of life, condemning the rest of us. I mean, the Jews are very happy just being Jews, going to synagogue on a Saturday, but no. Jesus goes away, comes back, and says Jews are wrong. His mere presence is a judgment, and then he tells us, "Thou shalt not judge." Are you kidding? Men will always have children, and those children will either die or be refined through time and experience and perspective. That's what men do. Women, on the other hand, you know, having said that, Leslie, I have forgotten your question. No. If there is nothing else, then we'll. Yeah.
So you wouldn't say that we have like a base genetic code, like, you know, any race, any type of person, whatever they think, whatever their views are, no matter what, I feel like regardless, we always, lead ourselves into having children or procreating or, furthering the race, I guess, or excuse me, yeah, the human race. The human race. The human race. The human race. You get what I'm saying? I feel like that is like a pre-written genetic code in our.
If you go back in time, say around the 18th, 19th century, and read some of the stories that come from Charles Darwin. Darwin, of course, his father wanted him to be a priest, but that's for a different day. There is something that he said that's interesting. I mean, look, go home today, put a couple of potatoes, oranges, apples, whatever you want, in a plastic bag, and just put it under your bed. And given the fact that we all smoke and we're all very forgetful because of just the busyness of life, you'll probably have forgotten, you will forget that you put this bag of potatoes under your bed. And after a few days, or a few weeks, or a few months, or a few years, you'll come to realize that your room is just filled with flies, these insects flying around. And you say, is it the vent? Is it this? Is it the window that's open? And then after many quests to figure out where is this coming from, you remember, 5 weeks ago I put some potatoes under the bed. And you realize something really interesting, that it seems that life has a tendency of recycling itself. Nothing goes to waste. There is this genius that lives inside life itself. If you are a living organism of any kind, if you have this thing about you that knows how to transform itself to something different, life is never going to be wasted. One of the reasons why the sexual impulse is so powerful inside us, the reason why we have children because we have sex, and then we reflect as to how to raise them. And then we reflect as to why we had them and how many more we should have, right? I mean, if you are the firstborn, your parents no doubt will one day sit and say, our kid doesn't need to go through life alone. Let's give him a brother or a sister. For the first time now, you begin to think about the happiness of your kid. Yeah, they can play with the cell phone 24/7. Yeah, they can smoke, but let's give him a companion. The third one is an accident, but that's besides the point, okay? And so one of the things that biology, I think, did for us, evolution did, was, we don't want people to think. Because the moment you begin to reflect about life and you realize the horror, I mean, look, you're a reflective little animal. It's 2 a.m, you want to get yourself a drink, you go into 7-Eleven parking lot, you see a few goons with baseball bats, they look a little scary. What are you going to do? Well, this first principle that Darwin talked about jumps at you. Protect your life. It's not worth it. Go to the 7-Eleven in Montclair, right? Because you see, you think. And all of a sudden, you make a U and you go somewhere else. So what happens to us is that you have sex and you have kids. And then because of now the set of emotions that are generated by having children, now you begin to pay attention. Do I need to send my kids to private school or public school? If you live in Piedmont, well, you don't really need to think about that because it's a safe environment. You go to high school, they give you free laptops. Maybe they'll even give you free lap dances, right? If you live in East Oakland, for example, and you're an immigrant, okay? And you moved to this country to make life better for you, to give yourself some hope. You want your kids to have things that you yourself never had the options, right? And you say, well, living in East Oakland is not going to do it for me. And I hate the public schools in East Oakland. Now, for the first time, you begin to reflect. And this is how we change. Reflection is not part of who and what we are. It doesn't work. Reflection is the outcome of pain. And pain is something that you see, that you didn't see initially. I mean, how many of us in this class, when you fall in love and it doesn't work out, you say, I'm never going to fall in love again. Why? Your eyes have been opened. You've been expelled from the Garden of Eden. Naivete. Anything? Leah? Yeah.
The example you used was unique to me. I grew up in East Oakland in Richmond. I feel like I'm not your average good dude or like ghetto dude. I feel like I am
Cursed?
multifaceted. I feel like because of that. I don't know. I'm not when you was making those examples like one, two, or maybe that's just why we are as a collective of treating Black people are not really fearful of things. Like we have to push the boundary a lot of the time. Like I've been in those situations too many times where it's like I don't have that luxury to be able to think about going to my career, working my song, just goes into it. Like but push past this uncomfortability and whatever happens, I have to show up however I have to show up. And I feel like in that way that's taught us resilience, or that's where we get the resilience from, is just having to show up in situations where we have no other choice. So I feel like I'm low-key amazing to have grew up in those environments, and I still don't show that when you first meet me. Like you hear me speak, you I feel like respect the way that I speak because of the way you hear my mindset first. I don't feel like the environment necessarily like matters. Besides teaching, overcoming your things, or because every school I went to, I had to walk on. Like get on the public transportation bus. I've never been in any kind of private school, but my level of intellect, I feel like
It's very low. I think many of us start life with a good amount of hope. And you get this hope from the outside. And that outside environment also supports the sort of narratives it gives you. Until that hope is crushed. When the hope is crushed, disrespect sets in. You no longer have... One of the nice things about the book of Job is that initially he's very hopeful, initially he's very positive, initially he's very faithful. And then when those are challenged, little by little he begins to challenge God, disrespect God. One of the nice things about, I think, people of color is that they're acutely aware of what those in power can do and how the system is set up, and so they don't really have much respect for it. And because of that reason, anytime they can find a way to bend certain laws, rules, they will do so. Prince of Bel-Air is a really, really good example of that. You have a man with privilege, and you have a man who has the privilege of having a lived life. Not so much behind closed doors or in gated community, but he has lived. Okay? So Will Smith, the way he speaks, the ideas that he has, the boundaries that he pushes are very, very different than Carlton. There are certain things about, since you brought up yourself, let me just take advantage of that. Imagine that you were hanging out with your own people, okay, who looked like you, smelled like you, tasted like you, all that. Their background would be a little different, their temperament would be a little different, the way they would express themselves would be a little different. They would not be as articulate as you are, as creative as you are, as reflective, intellectual as you are. But this is the only community that you knew, and this is the only community that you had. Two things can happen. Remember, we are creatures that depend on society to survive. We need communities. Otherwise, you just go nuts. You will either try to pull your friends to where you are, so all of you can speak the same, think the same, and feel the same. Not all the time, but at least 20, 30% of the times. You guys can go drinking, smoking, sexing, all those things, but once in a while you can sit and read the Bible together. For example, or you go down to where they are. Should you go down to where they are in order to have a cult to which you belong and can find meaning and belonging, okay, there is going to be a point where you have no choice but to lose what just lives inside you. That this is Devante, he likes to think, he likes to read, and he likes to express himself articulately, reflectively. But this is not a group of people who can appreciate that. So what do? You begin to look like them. Can I tell you a story? Before I tell you the story and then forget the thread, just in case you desire not to be like the people around you, you pretend to be like them, but you live a very solitary life. And it's just a matter of time before you walk away and feel the aloneness in life.
I grew up being told, hang around high families. Always had that mindset. I like the group, the environment.
Yeah, you just have to be careful not to get depressed.
I think that's just
Yeah, and should you get depressed, you need to make sure you have a support system. That you have like more depressed people around you. Look, you need people with similar experiences. Those experiences create similar feelings. Those feelings create similar language and expressions. And that becomes your family. Without a family, you're just alone. And that's no fun. I mean, someone who likes to smoke desires to hang out with smokers. Someone who likes to drink enjoys hanging out with drinkers. Someone who likes to think has no choice but to hang out with people who also enjoy thinking. And it's not that they don't have disagreements, but at least they can disagree intellectually. Okay. Now, having said all of those nonsense, let me tell you a story. Before I tell you a story, do you have any questions and comments, Leah? Yes. Jordan? Lavelle? I wasn't really interested in any questions. I just want to hear your voice. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
All right, I see. Is having sex a healthy way to escape reality?
I'm sorry?
Is having sex a healthy way to escape reality? Protecting sex.
Well, let's put aside the protected and unprotected and all that. No, let's not for now. No. Okay.
If I say somebody who was happy. Okay.
Next year, I'll be teaching a class called Philosophy of Love and Sex. For those of you who are still around, I don't mean like die, you're just like around Laney, you know. And I'll be teaching that class, and it is hands-on. I'm just kidding, no hands-on, hands off, we'll just talk about it. Is what? Is legal? Now, is it true that sometimes you have sex because you love your companion? Absolutely. That's one function of love. There is no other language to express how you feel about your companion, so the two bodies grind, okay, one another, and in those bodies you have, of course, the bodies come together, the emotions are together, and they both think the same way about one another. I love you, I can't live without you. Okay. Now that's a trinity. There are moments where human beings are not as lucky. We are fragmented, divided, broken. That there's a good amount of frustration inside you. Okay. And you need 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes or 20 seconds to escape from the brutalities of life. You pull down your pants and you masturbate. Okay? That's one way. There are times where you feel disconnected from your companion. No amount of conversation, and you don't love them. But you just want to make sure that you guys are still connected at some ridiculous level. Okay? And sex becomes another tool for that. It's not because you love him. It's not because you want to stay with him, for the rest of your life. It's just that, the environment is a little thick. It's suffocating. It's difficult to breathe. And to ease tension a little bit, that's what you do. You have sex. Sometimes you happen to be in a monogamous relationship, but it's not going anywhere. You don't want a divorce. You don't want to walk away. But you feel as if something about you is held hostage. So you cross certain boundaries and you become intimate with another human being. Not because you want to have an affair, not because you want to teach, but you want to get in touch with a different part of yourself. Because this particular culture doesn't allow for those things. It's categorized as cheating, having an affair, and divorce, and all that stuff. Okay. So the point I suppose I'm trying to make is the following. Any tool under the sun can be used in a variety of different ways. Sex is a tool. Right now, you're sitting on that chair. If I was to ask you, can you change the light bulb? You look around, there are no ladders. You're going to use that chair as a ladder. Sometimes you want to make an announcement. You stand on the chair. Sometimes you get into a fight with a Mike Tyson. You're no match for him. You throw that chair at him. So the point I'm trying to make, look at things as tools. They can be used in all sorts of different ways. Sometimes for love, sometimes not for love. And if you were to look at this engagement called sex very, very, very closely, very closely, you realize something profoundly horrifying. There comes a point in that particular activity where you literally desire to hurt your companion. And you enjoy it. And that goes back to our biological need for violence, for pain. We are just strange little beasts. Oh, my story is right. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. It's good to see you.
See you too.
You're not leaving?
If possible.
Oh. Well, good. There is this lion cub, tiny little baby. And he's just walking around with his mom and dad. It's snowing. The ground has little icicles on it. And he slips. He goes through this tunnel, bangs his head against this rock, and loses consciousness, passes out. He wakes up and he doesn't know who he is. He doesn't know where he is. He doesn't know what happened. But he desires to be around some living things. He looks to his left or right, and there's a group of sheep. That's my family right there. And he pays attention and he realizes that the way sheep communicate to one another is by going ba-ha-ha, ba-ha-ha. And that's what the lion cub begins to do. He goes ba-ha-ha. And this is no longer Simba now. It's no longer this tiny little cub. Okay. He's huge now, has this beautiful mane or beard, you know. And every time he wants food, he goes, bah. I mean, just imagine, Lion King going, bah. One day as this mature lion is walking around, slips, goes to this tunnel, bangs his head against this rock, passes out, wakes up, goes, bah. Tragedy is he finds himself amongst lions and lionesses. And the lions look at this lion and say, what the hell is wrong with him? Lions supposed to roar, roar, not bah. The only person who understands, the only lion who understands is the alpha male. Now, consider for a moment a perspective on compassion and kindness. This alpha male lion jumps on this lion/sheep, grabs the neck, forcefully pulls him towards this pool of water, pushes his head down so he can get a reflection of who and what he is, and for the first time comes to realize he's not a sheep, he's in fact a lion. You just forget. You forget you're an African American and you come from this rich heritage. You forget you're Mexican. You forget you're Persian. You forget that every single one of us in this classroom have this depth to us as a human being, as a cultural animal. And yet, life busies us, chews us, and then you die and no one will ever remember you. All of us eventually will be turned into a sheep. If you can find someone who'll slap you a few times to remind you. And that's the thing about education. It's always going to be painful. If you have seen that movie, Lucy, there is a scene where this woman, what's her name? Johannes, Scarlett, walks into this hotel or place with two knives, puts them in, stabs this man, and looks at him and says, learning has always been a painful experience. Right now, you have lost focus. You can't learn anything because you're only focused on the pain. You're only focused on your mom, on your dad, on the class, on the grade, on the job, on this, on that. And that'll eventually turn all of us into a sheep. That's how it is. The thing about, the assignments you're going to do for this class, you can't spend a lot of time and actually think and write a really good essay. But you need time, you need the intellectual tools, you need to have read, you need to be interested, you need to be inspired, you need to make sure that inspiration or excitement doesn't get interrupted by various things. You need to make sure that the grading factor doesn't ever enter the scene, because that will make you want to write in a way that I will enjoy. And then you will lose your own voice. But it usually takes a long time for you to figure out what your own voice is, what it looks like, what it feels like, how it sounds. So, yeah. Stephanie. Jordan. Go ahead. Nothing? You sure? Okay. Matthew. Okay. William. Brandon. Ali. Yeah. Sorry.
So, I forgot my question. Never mind.
Well, ask a different one.
Is it a blessing or a curse to be an empathetic person, or a person who has a lot of empathy? Because I feel like sometimes a person's very empathetic, certain people take advantage of that person's empathy. I'm wondering if it's always a good thing to be super empathetic to another person.
Do you know where you live? I came here in 1979. I landed in Davis. There was not a single homeless person in Davis. I couldn't see any, and I lived there for about 8 years. And then I saw one, and that was a new thing. And I'm an immigrant. We didn't have any money, you know. I mean, we had to steal to survive. And so because I had tasted poverty, because I had tasted what it felt to sleep on bus benches, you know, we did what we could for this person. Then one homeless person became 2, then 3, then 4, then 100, then 1,000. And as the homeless numbers grew, you became a bit more callous, a bit more indifferent. It wasn't just bad luck. It was a whole host of different things that drove people into being homeless. Now, you and I have a limited amount of capacity. Granted, you're young, you have 50 gallons of empathetic capacity. I'm a little older, I have 2 gallons. Which means that you can be kind and compassionate for 5 hours, I can only do it for 5 minutes. When the numbers of unhealthy people grows, something very strange is going to happen to you and to me. You're going to be very selective whose stories you're going to want to hear and who you want to help. Is that a form of racism or bigotry or prejudice? Absolutely. Why do you do it? To protect your own sanity. The point I'm trying to make, empathy is part of who and what we are. Wherever you go and you see pain, something just happens to you. Not all the time, but most often something happens to you. When I see a homeless person, nothing happens to me. If I see the very same homeless person that I was very indifferent towards, now laying on the ground, turning, twisting, then something is going to happen to me. So as the numbers grow, you need more intense expressions of homelessness for you to begin to feel something. Okay? And then when you see it, you say, okay, what exactly does this person need? Now remember, empathy or an act of kindness, however you want to phrase it, some people need physical help. Some people need emotional help. Some people need psychological help. Some people need intellectual help, and some people need spiritual help. Now here's the thing. If you're Jesus Christ, and you encounter a man who hasn't had any food in his belly, the idea to go to him and say, you as a human being do not live by bread alone. Well, that's offensive. The guy hasn't eaten for 5 days. Give him a fucking loaf of bread. He doesn't need God. He needs a sandwich. Some people, their belly is full, but they have some emotional stuff they're dealing with. They need a couple of ears. Sit with them and listen to the story. Some people have psychological issues. By psyche means they live inside your soul. They need more of a help. Do you have the time, the energy, the capacity? Can you be abused for the next 5 years so this person can be out of this ditch? Now, just in case you don't have the emotional maturity, but you can help someone physically, well, your resource is having money. Do you have money? Ultimately, the point I'm trying to make, most of us, the only resource we have is we can only feel for the other, but we can't do much about it. Some have the resources. I can't give you $10, but I have money for a cup of coffee. I can give that to you. My recommendation at my age, be selective. And to be selective, you need to pay attention. You need to observe, take notes, study, and then see if you have the resources to help. Do you know how many students in this class do not turn in assignments? I don't care. Do you know how many students are going to fail? I don't care. Did I care at some point? Yeah. I would Google their name, figure out where they live, and we'll go to their house. I'm just kidding. So yeah, don't help anyone. Good job. Anyone else? Stephanie? Yes.
You know, I'm always trying to usually know what you're saying. Like almost like.
You know, it usually takes time for people to agree with me.
It's a little scary. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Initially, you know, you say, this guy's full of shit. His language is this way. His expression. The way he speaks. You know. And then like 10 years pass by and say, oh, wait a minute. I think I heard that somewhere. Yeah. Brandon.
Why do we need satisfaction? What is, why do we crave it?
There is a passage in the Quran. You know what the Quran is? It's an episode in The Simpsons. No. The Quran is the Bible of the Muslims. Those who, Muslims, you know what that is? Muslims, just. Human beings are wired to desire. When you desire something, what happens? You desire something. Look, if your belly is filled with food, do you want food? No. Do you think about food? No. Do you crave food? No. The only thing you say, I ate too much fucking food. That's what you do. At what point do you begin to desire food? When you're hungry, when you're on college, you pass Barney's, the smell of the burgers. The point is, at a certain point, something creates some form of attraction. Okay? The smell of the burger is good. A desire is born. If you just ate food, it just stays as a desire. If on the other hand, it's 11:30 and the last time you ate is at 8 o'clock, you begin to say, maybe I am hungry enough to have a burger. Now you say, I want a burger. Then you play with the idea. Should I do it now or at 2 o'clock? How much money do I got? Should I do Indian food, Persian food, burger food? What kind of food? Then you look into your pocket. How much money do I got? Is it enough for a burger or Zachary's or what? Okay? Then you choose accordingly. There comes a point where you manipulate your own psyche to such an extent where you say, I fucking need food. It began as a simple seed of attraction, desire, interest, excitement. Now you need it. The moment it comes into a need, now you are poor. Your stomach is poor. Maybe you're intellectually poor. Maybe you're psychologically poor. You never had a father. Now you're looking for a father figure. You join the military. You go play basketball because you need the coach to be your father. Who the hell cares? Okay, you need something. The moment the need comes about, it means you don't have it. In not having anything, it doesn't matter what it is. In not having, you're categorized as being poor. Not so much physically, maybe emotionally, maybe psychologically, maybe spiritually. Okay? Go back in time. Jesus did not leave his house because he was hungry physically. He was starving spiritually, so he leaves, okay? Eventually, you're going to wait at Zachary's. 45 minutes later, a deep dish spinach mushroom is going to come to your table with some Caesar salad. You're going to eat like a pig. What happens to your need? Now you're satisfied. In satisfaction, what happens? You no longer have any interest in the pizza looking at you. From satisfaction, you become dissatisfied. You box the pizza, you give it to some homeless person, or you put in the fridge, Okay? Mold grows, you dump it. And then you move on to another. After pizza, you say, you know what? Coffee doesn't sound too bad. Now you play with the idea of coffee. Okay? It's 2 o'clock. You're a little lethargic now, tired. All of a sudden you say, man, maybe I should go home and take a nap. And you keep playing with that idea until you find yourself home taking a nap. Now you wake up, you're restless. And you desire to somehow sublimate the restlessness. Get rid of it. You sit and watch TV. You have sex. That's how you do it. You cannot be without desires. It is impossible. Even Jesus Christ, he desired to come back to society and teach the rest of us. When he came to realize we are too much of fuck-ups, you know what he did? Fuck this. I want to die. That's another desire. As long as you're alive, you have no choice but to be around desires. Do you have moments where you sit, look at the sun, and you're full? Absolutely. How long do those desires last? Those moments of satisfaction, completeness, fullness, perfection? Maybe 10 seconds. So this idea of living in the present, you know, all that stuff that people say these days. Yes. How do you maintain? Yes. Couple of things. Couple of things. Men have a very, very short fuse. Loyalty for men, they're like do you know what breakers are in a breaker box? Their amperage is like about 2. They can't handle too much relationship, too much spending time with someone. After a while, they just get tired. Not all the time, but most often. Okay, so men are different and women function very, very differently. Okay. Men are visually jealous, whereas women are emotionally jealous. Okay? So when a woman has an affair, it's punishing for a man. The man cannot but leave. When a man has an affair, it's much easier for a woman to forgive. Again, not all the time, but it's easier. The fuller your life is, the fuller your life is. The longer the two of you can cohabitate a space. Let me give you an example. If you and I meet in a coffee shop, I don't know you, you don't know me, go back to examples I've always given. A sense of attraction, I become a political animal, or vice versa, you're a political animal, you come towards me, I walk towards you, we speak, okay? There is this mutual attraction. After 2, 3, 4, 5 hours, or days, or weeks, now physically we engage. And by this time, I have lots of emotions for you, you have the same amount of emotions for me, and then I say, I love you, and you say, I love you back, okay? Now, the foundation of our relationship doesn't have much of a history. 4 weeks, 5 weeks, okay? You can make a house. This is like built on sand. One of the nice things about the New Testament is that wonderful stories and phrases. You can't build a house on sand. Sex is sand. 2 weeks of meeting and having sex and falling in love, that's sand. You and I cannot build a house, okay? It's not possible. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't share the same roof. It does. We can stay in the same place. Now, if we had a 2-bedroom, if I had lots of money in my pocket, if sex now was in the back seat, because sex can only provide so much excitement to a relationship. And it's true that no man can live by bread alone. Sex will not sustain us. We need to go out and hang out. We need to have dinner out. We need to watch a movie. We need to travel. I need to talk to your dad. You need to talk to my mom. We need to get to know our families. I need to disappear when we go to your house, to your parents' house. Okay? Talk to your brother, to your sister. Then we come home. On the way home, I gossip to you about what your dad said to me. You will gossip to me about what my mom said to you. Okay? And then you and I have a big backyard. We go to Home Depot together, not to have sex, but to buy trees, to buy 2x4s, to buy nail guns. And what you realize is that the bigger, the richer your life is, the more power you have to distract yourself from the relationship. I'm not going to look at you and say, do you love me? Are you happy? What's wrong with you? You're not an infinite well of excitement, and neither am I. The longevity of our relationship, if it's superficial, max 6 months. Then boredom is going to set in. Unless you happen to be with a really older man, wiser man, richer man psychologically, who has infinite number of stories to tell you, lots of places to take you, that's a different story. But given the fact that we are such shallow, superficial, young culture, the truth is we don't really have much to offer anybody. So there comes a point where you just look at someone and you won't feel anything for them. And that's just normal. You know, is it true that you and I get together and I sit home and begin to fantasize about, yes, I'm going to marry her, we're going to have children, and we're going to buy a house, and we're going to do this? Yes. But I have all these imaginations, but I don't have any of the resources. God forbid if I come from a broken background, traumatized, maybe drugs, alcohol, divorced parents, abusive past. Those are just more baggage to this relationship that you don't really have the tools to fix. I think people should just focus on finishing school, getting a job, and while going to school, getting a job, you can date, you can have sex, you can be in long-term, short-term relationships, but be realistic about where you are in life, you know. And then once you have a good amount of power, intellectual power, and also money-wise, education-wise, then you go out there, and then you'll be very, very selective. You know, what kind of, and it's also a matter of luck. You may be a wonderful, reflective human being and yet fall victim to just a bad choice. Maybe just a bad guy or a bad gal who just deceived you into having you fall in love with them. Those things always happen. Yeah, when you can't feel anything about anyone, you just feel like you're being suffocated and you're just like hemorrhaging. And you walk into a house and it's never going to feel like a home. And you won't have moments of intimacy, but all you have is just sex. It's completely trash. It serves some purpose, but for the most part, it's just trash. Well, you guys have talked a lot today.